Hello and welcome to Paizo Live. My name is Aaron Shanks and I'm Paizo's Marketing and Media Manager. Today is Friday, January 21st, and we're going to spend some time, the next 2 hours, talking to 7 different guests about all the new Paizo products that are coming out next Wednesday, January 26th. We'll spend, as I say, 2 hours talking. We've got 3 different segments. We're going to start off with organized play and our digital products with Mike Kimmel, Thurston Hillman, and Tessa Newton. And then we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll have our second segment, which will be Pathfinder focused on Quest for the Frozen Flame. We'll have Patrick, Renie, Ron Lundeen, Stephanie Lundeen, and Tessa Newton will stick around. And lastly, we'll take a break, and our third session will be focusing on Starfinder and the new hardcover coming out, Galactic Magic, with John Compton, Thurston Hillman, and Ron Lundeen. You can see we have a lot of crossover in today's products. So that's the agenda. Let's go ahead and introduce our first guest, Mike. Mike Kimmel, can you join me?
Hi, I'm Mike
Hello,
Kimmel.
and welcome, Mike.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Go ahead and tell everybody what your title is and what you do for Paizo.
So I'm an organized play line developer, so I work on our organized play scenarios specifically for the Pathfinder Society program. And I have just finished my first year as a Paizo employee, just had my 1-year anniversary earlier this month.
Congratulations! It's been another year of working from home,
Yes.
and doing Paizo Live from our homes. So thank you very much for letting us join you in your home today.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to bring in our next guest. Pardon me, Thurston Hillman. There you go. 2 guests.
Okay, it's actually the cat. She wants to say hi. Hello, everybody. Hi. Sorry, cat jumped up on my desk. We're starting off right today. Hi, I'm Thurston Hillman. I am a digital developer at Paizo. I've learned all the internet tricks. You start off with cats. Now everybody loves me. Ha ha! I am responsible for the currently the digital one-shots. I am also very involved with the bounties program, specifically for Pathfinder, and I'm also very involved with the interactives that are coming up for quote-unquote convention season, whatever that'll look like now. I don't know. And then I am also involved in a variety of super secret digital-related projects and other projects that I can't quite talk about even here, but I swear I'll give you some good dirt later. Don't worry.
Excellent. Happy to have you. You're wearing a lot of hats, and we appreciate that. And our third guest is Tessa Newton. Welcome, Tessa.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Yes, thanks for coming back. And you're an editor for Paizo. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So today, especially during this segment, I will perhaps reintroduce myself in terms of my relationships to some of the other stuff I'm going to be talking about today. But for this, the relevant information is that I am the edit lead of the Pathfinder Society scenarios and all that jazz. I have been working with Mike pretty closely over the course of year 3 for your Shattered Sanctuaries, and we're cooking up some cool stuff coming up. Excited to talk to you guys about it. It's going to be cool.
Excellent. I'm so glad to have both you and Mike on at the same time. Explore that synergy between development and editing for Pathfinder Society. So let's get into that. Let's talk about Pathfinder Society. I want to just loosely frame what it is we have coming up this month. We have 4 digital products, 2 Pathfinder Society products, 1 Starfinder Society product, and 1 Starfinder bounty that Thurston can tell us more about. Do you have the titles for us, Mike? Do you want to start off with Pathfinder Society and tell everybody what they have to look forward to?
Sure. So we have 2 Pathfinder Society scenarios coming up this month. Both of them, excitingly, are part of the meta plot for the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. The first one, scenario number 308, thanks for the art there, is Foundation's Price by Laterio Mamaliti for levels 1 through 4. And that's kicking off our Kadira meta plot arc. And the second scenario is Pathfinder Society scenario 309, The Secluded Siege, another metaplot scenario, which is for levels 5 to 8, written by Lyle Cap, and kicking off another metaplot arc in the nation of Osirian. And I can go into more detail on both of those as desired.
Yeah. Well, let's take a step back and talk about the meta plot. For someone who might be new to Pathfinder Society, is there a thumbnail version of what's going on this year?
Yes, of course. So essentially, the Pathfinder Society is this organization of adventurers and scholars who go around the Pathfinder campaign setting of Galarian and go on adventures and recover lost knowledge and get up to all kinds of shenanigans. And they have lodges, which are these sites in different nations where they base their missions out of. And the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries is all about many, many problems taking place all at once for some mysterious reason, all across different lodges, all across the Inner Sea. Suddenly there's all this mail coming in to the Grand Lodge in Absalom, saying, we have this problem here and this problem over here, and we need agents sent all over the place to solve all these problems. So we have lots of smaller arcs of scenarios taking place at different lodges around the Inner Sea that all kind of contribute broadly to this overall Year of Shattered Sanctuaries mystery.
So that's the story that these products help tell, is these little smaller stories that are part of the bigger year-long story.
Yes, and they're both kicking off their respective stories in their regions. So Scenario 8, Foundation's Price, is like the beginning of a new story in Kadira, and Scenario 9, Secluded Siege, is also the beginning of another slightly different story. So it's kind of a really good starting point for someone to come into either of these, because you could play either of them and you'd be beginning a new story, and then you could go back and play whatever of the other arcs that you may have missed, and you would still have a really cohesive sense of what's going on.
It looks like they're all they're both levels 1 through 4, so that's another good starting place, I should think.
One of them's level 5 to 8.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, great.
Scenario. Yeah, we've got a Starfinder scenario. Yeah. So
no, my eyes skipped the wrong. So we've got Foundation's Price is which? Is 1 through 4?
Foundation's Price is levels 1 through 4, and Secluded Siege is levels 5 through 8. So you could jump into that with a 5th level pre-generated character if you wanted. So in that way, it serves as you could start there. But as far as low level, we've got 1 low level and then 1 higher level.
And if you're one of those people who absolutely has to get in at the beginning, you should also be sure to check out Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, written by one Mike Kimmel, who probably wouldn't try to sell his own product on this stream, but I'm going to do it for him. That is the intro scenario for our season, so if you want to get all of those storylines and the lead-ins to those, you should go check out Pathfinder Society number 3-01, Year of Shattered Sanctuaries. Look, the name is even the same as our season. Bam.
Credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due. The Year of Shattered Sanctuaries was Thirsty's meta plot.
Pick at me. I see what you're doing.
Haha.
There's been a lot of baton passing back and forth. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm carrying forward the story from Thirsty's excellent foundations.
Well, great. It sounds like there's an abundance of storylines, and people can kind of mix and match. Tessa, how did you coordinate with these two hooligans to wrangle them in the editing process. What was that like?
First of all, they're both a delight to work with. So I want to kind of get that out of the way really quick. I really like I really like this this sort of assortment because of these two scenarios. I really think the Qadira and the Osirian sort of parts of the meta plot storyline for your Shattered Sanctuaries is some of the coolest parts of it. I think we take some really cool risks that, in my opinion, really pay off. And I'm very excited for folks to play them. I am definitely more on the narrative and pre-layout editing and sort of focusing on kind of outlines and overarching ideas side of things than I am in the nitty-gritty rules editing as much. I still do that. But that's why I was really excited for your Shattered Sanctuaries, because Thurston and Mike did such an amazing job at bringing it home. I really love the year 2 storyline. I think the Iobaria stuff that we did, I worked on a bunch of that too. But it's really cool, and it was a lot of fun. But I am a sucker for themes and drama and meanings and things like that. And so this idea of the Pathfinder Society, this really big organization with a lot of power and a lot of influence all around the world, really being hit where it hurts, being hit close to home, and not in just we're under attack, but for all of these very strange reasons that seem to tie back to the Pathfinder's own sort of history in these regions. And I'm really excited for people to see sort of where Mike, as leading the PFS sort of team, and the rest of us are taking stuff. So I'm stoked for people to finally get their hands on these.
Excellent. I want to ask about rules. I want to just touch base as we talk about each one of the products today. Is there anything that these two or that these scenarios utilize in terms of rules? Is there something that they specialize in that people are going to look forward to? Are there subsystems? Well, it could be kind of a spoiler, but is there anything new that's been developed for these scenarios, or are there does it rely on some sort of special Pathfinder tool set or subsystem that you got to use in the creation of these scenarios? Does that make sense?
Yeah, interesting question. I'd say that. Oh, Tessa, did you have an idea?
Oh, no, sorry. This is a bad segue. I was going to say I have one thing, but I don't know if we want to spoil it. I'm going to maybe DM you on the side, Mike. And
Okay. I'll talk and you DM me.
Do it.
I'll say some other stuff. So both of these, I think, are showcase Pathfinder's versatility, because they're both very different. One of them, in Foundation's price, the Pathfinders are going to this new lodge in the port city of Sedek in Qadira. It's this trade city, and the society has this new lodge, and a bunch of agents went there previously to set up for a grand opening ceremony, and they went missing. And so it's kind of like a puzzle scenario. You arrive at the lodge, and there's a genie there, and the genie's like, you must perform these 3 tasks for me. And it's about doing all these weird things in the city and figuring out what's going on. And in Secluded Siege, it's just there's tons of undead pouring out from underneath the basement of the Pathfinder Lodge, the Sand-Swept Hall in Osirian, which is kind of an ancient Egypt kind of vibe to it. And suddenly there's all these undead pouring up. So it's just tons and tons of undead. There's a really fun encounter that I don't want to talk too much about. I don't know. It's just some exciting combat mechanics, and I'm checking Tessa's message here right now.
Right.
Ooh.
So
here, let me jump in. I mean, the other thing with these two scenarios is, I was going to say, the other thing with these two scenarios that really like makes them is that they are standalone great scenarios that are leading into this meta plot, but we have. But for those of us who may be of the older gamer variety and have been around the Pathfinder Society for a few years, possibly even a few editions now, these are also building on stories we've been telling for quite some time. In particular, like if you look at Foundation's Price throughout all of 2nd edition is something we've been building towards, this creating a lodge. It started with a quest, and then I remember quests before bounties. Whoa, what back in the way back when machine. And then we ended up having additional scenarios in the region, eventually reaching that. And then the Secluded Siege, which, as Mike just said, takes place in this lodge, Syrian. That lodge has been around since, as I quickly pull up, totally not a wiki here, season like 0 of like organized play. We're talking 2009. This place has been around since. So we're seeing building up on older elements, but being presented in a way that is going to be really approachable for new players. And that is really at the core of what Season 3 is all about, is taking these core fundamentals that maybe the older gamer crowd who've been around the Pathfinder rodeo for a while understand and know like the back of their hands, but we haven't really presented these to newer players in our new generation. So these scenarios are really reinforcing that and bringing these stories while also moving them forward and maybe shaking things up a little.
Great. Fundamentals. That's rules, fundamentals, and a tried and true plot location. That sounds like a great combination. Okay, were there any more comments on these two Pathfinder scenarios, or can we now move on to Starfinder Society?
I think you should move on because we shouldn't spoil it. It's too good.
It's too good. There's a really cool. There's a really cool villain that, but we don't want to spoil it. We want you to learn all about the really cool villain by playing the scenarios. So there you go.
Touché. All right. Well, what can you tell us about the Starfinder Society scenario that's coming out next Wednesday?
All right. Starfinder Society scenario 413, part of the Year of the Dead Scourge metaplot, is called Hard Reset. It's for levels 1 through 4 by Joseph Blomquist. And it is all about a digitally simulated training mission that becomes infected with the Data Scourge virus. And the player characters become trapped in a computer called Guidance, which is like this computer that advises the Starfinder Society. And there's rapidly deteriorating computer systems in this weird simulated training mission, and the PCs have to save Guidance by countering the virus from inside the digital realm and escaping before the system shuts down completely. It's a dangerous adventure, kind of in a breaking, malfunctioning digital world with weird digital foes, weird code, weird malfunctioning defenses, and you're going to learn about the origins of the Data Scourge. And it has a really cool map. I'm told to inform you, and I saw the map, and I agree. It is a very cool map.
That's so archetypical, you know.
It is.
I think of the Danger Room in pop culture. I think of the holodeck malfunctioning. I think someone who is new to Starfinder Society will understand the situation intuitively based on other pop culture situations. I think the tricky thing is that Guidance. My understanding is Guidance is really an ally. Guidance is not something you know. If you're stuck inside Guidance and Guidance is infected, that's it's not a destroy Guidance mission.
Right.
So that's the twist. The challenge is solve without destruction.
Yeah, I said I asked Jessica Catalan, our developer, what do you want me to say about the scenario? And she described it, and I said, well, now I just want to play Starfinder. Thanks.
Exactly. we do want to move on to Thirsty's digital adventures coming up now. Tessa, do you have any special insights about this Starfinder scenario? Or I think because you're the lead on Pathfinder Society, that's really your wheelhouse, right? You didn't get to be lead mostly editor on this one. Yeah.
We all have.
Who is our Starfinder Society lead editor? Can you tell us?
So that would be Soul St. John, who is an absolutely fantastic editor, who has been really kicking ass over with Starfinder Society. They do an amazing job with that side of the line. But no, I mean these two knuckleheads keep me more than preoccupied with all of the Pathfinder Society side of things.
That's my secret plot for Pathfinder Paizo Live, by the way, is just to gather all our coworkers together and like throw compliments and insults at each other for about 2 hours. Which is what we're doing successfully. So thank you very much. Exactly. So thank you for the insight about who the Starfinder Society editor is. Now let's move on to digital products with Thirsty. Oh, go ahead. I'm
point of order. Point of order, Aaron, sir. You asked Tessa if they had anything to say about this scenario, but did not ask me, the former lead developer on Starfinder Society. So, one, my feelings are incredibly hurt. But two, I do want to say that for people who follow Starfinder Society, there are some really interesting ties between this scenario and scenario number 2-14, which was aptly titled Data Purge, which was almost like a 2-season ago little prequel into the eventual coming of the Data Scourge season, because Michael J. Straczynski taught me to work on 5-year meta plot plans. Anyways, you should go check out that scenario too if you haven't already. It's a high-level scenario, ties in perfectly with this, and in fact, that cool map that was talked about might even have a little bit of connections to the cool map that is brought up here. So.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight.
Sassed you.
That's what we're here for. It's the Paizo Live Spice. But let's talk about what you've been taking the lead on. But first, let's talk about a new product line. We have a level 1 Starfinder bounty. Can you bring us up to speed on that?
Yeah, so the bounty line, if you're not familiar and are just joining us, is kind of the best way, I think, to get into organized play, like get the organized play mentality. They aren't organized play products, and big asterisks on that, everybody. But it's that kind of sit down, play with your characters. It's not quite the beginner box. It's not quite like starting an AP. It's a small, like usually about an hour long adventure that you can participate in, and essentially is you group of friends make up a character, in this case level 1, show up and go through this short sweet adventure. It's perfect for those situations where maybe you've got a bunch of friends at work and what you want to do is you want to run a game over lunch hours. Hey, these things slot in really well to that. We've had bounties going on Pathfinder Society side for quite some time. You might remember them also as quests in a sort of similar vein, but they are organized play agnostic, so they work in organized play and you can use them, but they do not use all the trappings of organized play. You can just, if you're someone who just wants a short adventure for you and your friends to play, don't want to worry about all that organized play society, what's this book I've got to learn thing, sweet, you can go run one of these and you don't have to worry about any of that. But if you are someone who's involved with our organized play program, then you can also run these as well. And so we've had these on Pathfinder for quite some time, and now we are moving over into the future. By that I mean we're doing some Starfinder ones, because the fans, they kept asking, where are the Starfinder bounties? It would be nice to have the Starfinder bounties, and so on and so forth regarding the Starfinder bounties. Well, now we have them. And so we have bounty number 1, the Cantina job, coming out this month. Ooh, fancy new product. And so you'll be able to come in and you will be able to play this with your friends. It has a very interesting situation where our intrepid band of heroes, not Starfinders, because they aren't necessarily Starfinders, remember that, get involved in a bit of a situation on Absalom Station where a scam artist has been prowling the bars of Absalom Station and maybe cantinas, and potentially tricking some people into some things they don't want to do. And we might end up with a situation where there's more than what seems to be on the tin is what's going on. So I can't really spoil it. It's our first one. You want to go out, you want to get it, you want to play it with your friends. And yeah, it's just a quick, nice, fun adventure, some great role-playing opportunities. You get to use that shiny new Starfinder flip map casino. I mean, come on, look at that. That's great. And it's going to be just like oodles of fun for everybody involved. So yeah, I would definitely suggest picking this one up. Yeah, super exciting. Also, we get some fancy new art. Like, what's not to love about this thing, right?
Yeah, and they're completely digital. They're PDF downloads, super easy to just go to the Paizo.com website and add them to your cart and download them. And they're only a few dollars, and it's a really easy way to just jump into Starfinder at level 1. And I love that you can take it and you can decide, okay, are these characters are they pre Starfinder Society, or is this their prologue to becoming Starfinders, or are they just going to stick with being bounty hunters and do a series of bounties, or maybe start something like a standalone adventure or an adventure path? Take those same characters and move off in the direction of all the myriad options you have with Starfinder.
Or has Bill not shown up for a session and you have all the other 3 players, but this is like the 4th time Bill has bailed on you, but Bill's really important to the meta plot that you've got in your campaign and you need to run something. Slot one of these in, you're good to go. And then you go yell at Bill because he needs to show up.
Just an hour, or traffic, terrible traffic. Someone gets stuck in traffic, right? and you gotta stall for an hour. That's what bounties are there for. Excellent. Now you're not just working on bounties. What else do you? What else can you tell us?
What can I talk about? Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm working on bounties. I work on the Pathfinder side, particularly right now, because we have a bit of a lighter release schedule on the Starfinder side. Jessica Catalan is the one handling these, so props to Jessica Catalan. Also, I would be remiss not to mention the author of the bounty we were just talking about, who is John Godek, who you've probably seen around, doing some stuff, yes. Some podcasts. He's a prolific person, I would say. So let me just throw credit where credit is due there first. But as for me, I work on the Pathfinder bounty line. I am now responsible for our interactive specials, which are the sort of big events that we typically put on at PaizoCon, Gen Con, those sorts of areas. So those are the multi-table special events. I'm currently working on those. And then the sort of current big feather in my cap that I work on as my primary task is digital adventures, and currently those are mostly comprised of one-shots, our digital one-shot line, which you've seen before. We've had Band on the Run for Starfinder, we've had Headshot the Rot, Dinner at Lion Lodge, Sundered Waves for Pathfinder. We've had a ton of stuff. Great Grav Train Robbery. By the way, there's a great stream of Great Grav Train Robbery here on the Paizo Twitch channel. Go check that out. For no apparent reason, there's just cool people on it. But yeah, so I've been working on a bunch of those products myself, and I get to have my first one that I developed release soon. That will be Mark of the Mantis, which was supposed to maybe have come out in a short bit, but we're actually going to have it coming out next month. So there's your spoiler. It's coming. And yeah, so that is going to be a digital one shot where all of you and your friends get to play Red Mantis Assassins, and you get to break into a building and assassinate a target before midnight. And let me tell you, some of the stuff that happens. I'm gonna preface this digital one shot. I'm gonna gush about it a lot. It's written by John Compton, who did an excellent job. Developed by me, and then developed also by Linda Zayas Palmer, who's the digital adventures manager. I think that's the official title she has now. She's my boss. Linda's my boss. She did a great job also fixing this adventure up. One thing about Mark of the Mantis that makes it a bit different than previous digital one-shots we've had is it's a bit more advanced. And what I'm going to say is it's not something that I think people are just going to like be able to run cold. Don't run this thing cold if you're a GM. Don't be like, I'm going to download it and run it tonight. This is something that you're going to get the most out of by putting some prep into. There's a lot of different systems at play. When we mentioned subsystems earlier, this is the thing crammed full of subsystems, but also there's subsystems that are intended to really get your players in the mood of what they're doing, which is being a group of assassins sneaking into or infiltrating, as the game mastery guide might say, infiltrating their way into a manor and taking down some high value targets and going for their like main mark. And this is also the first time that we, for these digital one shots, have done something a bit different, where we've included some repeatable elements. So, Great Graph Train did it too, but we've sort of cribbed that on the Pathfinder side now. For basically showing off a whole bunch of different options, like, was the trap this statue in this room? No, it's not in room A anymore, it's in room C, and it's a different type of statue that's going to kill you. Or this evil animal that they keep in a zoo because it's a nefarious organization that keeps strange animals in cages. That's different in another rendition, and you kind of have this replay option. So if you're someone like our organized play community who maybe runs things a few times, you'll have those opportunities to sort of spice it up and change things, down to even the final villain. So you've got a lot of cool stuff coming in Mark of the Mantis. That is just actually going through approvals right now. So that's exciting. And then we have some other ones coming down the pipe as well.
Great. Well, I think in interest of time, we're going to we've gotten a chance to talk about the products that we needed to talk about and given you a sneak preview for what's coming up in February. We'll pause there and save some of those other future one shots for future episodes of Paizo Live. So now let's sign off and talk about where people can be found on the interwebs, and what your Paizo Live spoiler is. Now, let me preface this because some of you are staying and some of you are going. So let's see. We're saying goodbye
Only Mike
to.
can get the spoiler.
Right?
I can do two spoilers. I can talk a lot.
Well, I know our audience would love it. So if you have, go right ahead, Mike.
Sure.
Where can you be found?
So I'm on Twitter at _ Mike Kimmel. It should be down on the screen there on the bottom.
Indeed.
And I have a spoiler too, and if you want to hear it.
Yes, please.
It's an exciting early preview. So before the end of year 3, which means sometime by summer, you can expect a sequel to the popular Pathfinder Society scenario from Season 2, The 7 Secrets of Dasylane Academy. That's right, school is back in session. Stay tuned for more delightful details soon.
A sequel scenario.
Yes.
That's great. Oh, and for context, the new season of Pathfinder Society starts with Gen Con. Do I have that correct?
Yes, and we have not announced anything about it yet, but it will exist.
Yes, it will exist, and but that's the timeline, so people can look forward to this sequel scenario between now and Gen Con. Is what I'm hearing you say.
That's right.
Excellent. All right, why don't we make sure that Thirsty and Tessa get a chance to say where they can be found on the interwebs in case someone is only listening to this segment on YouTube or something like that in future days. So Thirsty, where can people find you?
But seriously, listen to the whole thing.
Right?
You can find me over at Twitter at OnCallGM. I'm pretty much OnCallGM on most things. Twitch.tv/OnCallGM, where I play through games and do them from like a narrative game design perspective. Talk about like how games work in that way. And I sometimes run Pathfinder games there as well. You can also tune into, here's my shameless plug, twitch.tv/Zoran the Bear tomorrow for a campaign that I'm starting called Rock Grind, which is our big Pathfinder 2nd edition campaign, which I will be GMing. And we'll have Zoran the Bear, who some of you might remember as Peyton Smith, a former employee of Paizo, which we're going to be starting a whole Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign there, and it's really exciting, and I hope you join me. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, you want secrets. All right, secrets. Let's talk about
yes,
secrets.
Sir.
Well, secrets is going to be one of our one-shots that is coming up in the future. I've mentioned that our next one-shot in the past for the Starfinder side of things is going to be a bit of a like hack the mainframe type one shot. Well, the one after that for Starfinder is going to be a Drift Crisis tie-in, and it is going to do something that our fans have been asking for since day one, which is it is going to be a digital one shot that will predominantly assume that you will be making your own characters for it, and will be accounting for you making your own characters for it, and provide you with iconics still, but they will be more of our regular iconics. So look forward to a bit of a strong intro digital one-shot for the Drift Crisis coming up.
Excellent. Thank you. Taking one-shots in a slightly new direction. So thank you so much, Thirsty. Looking forward to that. And Tessa, where can folks find you? Where would you like to be found?
Absolutely. I am available far too frequently on twitter.com, which my username is KT_Tessa. You can find me there. Other than that, I don't have a lot to plug. I'm kind of vibing nowadays, hanging in there, etc. However, I guess this isn't a spoiler. It's an interesting piece of trivia, but don't worry, I will have my Paizo spoiler when I sign off later.
Sure.
But for the moment, I did want to chime in on really quick about Mark of the Mantis, which I was able to edit the whole adventure of actually just a couple of weeks ago. First of all, Thirsty's extremely right. Do not run it cold, please. And other than that, the other thing I want to say about Mark of the Mantis is, Thirsty, if you have the villain's number, I would like it, because they're very cute. Okay, that's it.
Excellent. Crushing on our characters
That's all I'm saying.
It's a thing. Excellent. Well, thank you all three for joining us in this first segment of today's Paizo Live and talking about all things digital and organized play. We're gonna take a break here. First, let me remind you that you can subscribe to Organized Play, Starfinder, and Pathfinder Society products. So if these interest you, you can always subscribe rather than download them individually. So now we'll take a break for about 5 minutes, and when we come back, we'll dive into the newest Pathfinder adventure path. Stay tuned.
The Magambia is the oldest and greatest academy of magic in the world. Here, old mage Jatimbe brought back the light of lost knowledge thousands of years ago, and his legacy still stands today. The newest initiates at the school, eager for knowledge, soon discover there's more going on at the Magic Academy than lessons and student rivalries. As years pass, the students are destined to become teachers, responsible for the Magambia's reputation around the world and beyond. They shall carve their names into the legacy of the great school, building upon the strength of thousands of graduates who have come before them. But learning never ends, and neither does the danger. The stories of these legendary heroes and their mighty foes will span the ages, rivaling even the tales of the old mage Jatimbe's 10 magic warriors, and the fate of the Magambia is destined to be in their hands. Enter a magic school like none other, with the strength of thousands adventure path.
I got it. Watch your backs.
Is everything all right there?
Just give me a moment.
I don't know how many moments we have here. This place is crawling with evil.
Your face is crawling with evil.
Don't let the wrong sound spoil your daring adventure. Sirenscape's massive library of moods, music, and atmosphere are perfect for any harrowing ordeal. We even have that special sound.
Got it.
For when they forget to check for traps. Epic games need epic sounds. Go to Sirenscape.com and try it for free today.
The Ruby Phoenix Tournament, the world's greatest martial arts contest, held in honor of the legendary sorcerer Hao Jin, the Ruby Phoenix. The final team standing in this once-per-decade contest wins a grand prize, their choice of a single item from Hao Jin's magnificent vault of treasures. This year, Hao Jin herself will preside as the grand judge. But to receive the honor of just even meeting the Ruby Phoenix, the contestants must first prove their mettle and strength in the untamed jungles of Danger Island. Only the 8 greatest teams will proceed to the metropolis of Goka to compete for the title of Ruby Phoenix Champions. During a year that promises to be unlike any other, countless untold mysteries await the challengers. Will it be mysterious scoundrels like the Lightkeepers? Brave friends such as Tino's Toughest? Or will it be your team of adventuring heroes to claim the Sorcerer's Prize? Let the games begin with the Fists of the Ruby Phoenix Adventure Path.
On the southern coast of Starstone Isle, not far from the town of Otari, the Gauntlet stands shrouded by cloying mists atop a centuries-old ruin in the Fogfin Swamp. Now, a pallid new light glows from within the ancient edifice, beckoning novice explorers to delve deep into the marsh to discover the truth behind the awakened radiance. The town elders of Otari say that the old lighthouse has been abandoned for ages, that the swamp itself holds little danger to the town. The town elders are wrong. Into the Mega Dungeon, the all-new Abomination Vault's adventure path for the Pathfinder role-playing game peels back layer after layer of mystery, intrigue, and terror in a 3-volume campaign of dungeon exploration and thrilling discovery, designed especially with new players in mind. The priceless plunder of long centuries awaits those bold enough to enter the sprawling Abomination Vaults. But claiming it requires facing off against a horde of hideous monsters, deadly traps, and vengeful ghosts with long memories and inhuman hungers. The Abomination Vault's adventure path works with the Pathfinder Beginner Box or Pathfinder Core Rulebook and is your perfect gateway to thrilling adventure 500 years in the making.
Hello and welcome back to Paizo Live. I'm Aaron Shanks, Paizo's Marketing and Media Manager, and today is Friday, the 21st of January, and we've been spending the 2 hours talking about everything coming out in January. Next Wednesday, the 26th of January, is our release date. We spent the first segment of Paizo Live talking about everything coming out of Organized Play, Pathfinder Society, Starfinder Society, and our digital products like one-shots. And now we're going to jump into our new release for our Pathfinder line, specifically the new Adventure Path Quest for the Frozen Flame. So let's meet our team, everyone who's had it's not everyone who's had a hand in creating the adventure path, but it's a large selection. So first, let me introduce Patrick Renie. He is the developer on this adventure path. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, Aaron. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I was the lead developer on Quest for the Frozen Flame. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I believe you and Ron sort of take turns being lead developers on adventure paths, unless things have switched there. But
No, that's right.
so you got to, yeah. So you got to take the lead on this adventure path.
That's right. Yeah,
and it is a
three-parter. Starts you off at first level. Really cool adventure path set in the realm of the Mammoth Lords, an area we've never explored in an adventure path before.
And what is that territory like for someone who doesn't know the Lost Omens setting?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a kind of this rugged tundra, very primordial landscape where people have tried to build settlements there. No one's ever been able to get a foothold because it's ruled by megafauna like woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and full of dangerous, larger than life creatures. And so the primary occupants of the region are the Mammoth Lords, which are these nomadic communities of hunter-gatherers who follow mammoth herds and track them down, hunt them for food, get their furs, follow them with the seasons. Very rugged, hardy folk. Only the toughest survive, kind of thing. So it's a really, if you're into survival, if you're into trying to best the environment or live with the environment, this is definitely the adventure path for you.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're going to dive into that. Let's bring on our other guests. We have Ron Lundeen. Ron, what is your title at Paizo, and what role did you have in the creation of this adventure path?
Alrighty. Well, I am first and most importantly Stephanie Lundeen's husband. I am also happen to be development manager at Paizo, which means I am responsible for overseeing the Pathfinder Adventure Path line and the Pathfinder Lost Omens line, and the great people, including Patrick, who work on those. As you mentioned, Patrick and I switch off on the adventure paths. That's you mix that up a little bit. He's doing 2 in a row, for example. But as far as my participation in Quest for the Frozen Flame, it was as a freelance author. I was there when Patrick was pitching what it is he wanted to do and the story he wanted to tell with this adventure path. I'm like, I'm super interested in participating in that story as a writer.
Excellent. And in fact, we would call you a co-author, which we will use to segue into our next guest. Stephanie Lundeen, co-author of Volume 1. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yes. So as Ron mentioned, I'm his spouse, and when he brought home this idea, I was really thrilled, because this just sounded like such an exciting opportunity to imagine a part of the Lost Omen setting that just really was fascinating, and underrepresented.
Right. All right. Well, let's put a pin in that. We'll get to know you just a little bit better in a moment. Let's bring on our fourth guest, and that's the return of Tessa Newton. Thanks, Tessa.
What's up?
Hello.
How's it going? I'm back. Sorry.
Yes. No, we everything's always better with an editor. These are the lessons I've learned in just a short time at Paizo.
Aaron. Thank you so much.
So, your editor is your title, as we learned in our last segment. What role did you play in this particular adventure path?
So it was my first, but this was definitely one of the first full adventure paths that I got to serve as edit lead on. I got to work with Patrick really closely throughout the creation of all 3 volumes. Of course, he laid out the whole story and all the different things, and I just kind of went in there and made a mess. So hopefully it's better because of that mess now. We tried to make it unmessy afterwards. But yeah, so I looked over outlines and gave feedback at all sorts of different stages in the process, and then would send Patrick lists of like 30 to 50 questions, and I'm sure he just loved receiving those. But yeah, it was a fun time. It's a really cool story, and I'm really excited for people to see it.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to. So now, audience, you see the big picture. We have a lead developer. We have a person who's wearing the hat of development manager as well as co-author. We have a co-author and spouse, and we have a lead editor for the Adventure Path. So we have a brain trust, which is great to be able to have on the show. And I'm going to pass the baton back to Stephanie, just so that we can shine the spotlight on one of our freelance authors again and find out. Stephanie, have you worked with your spouse Ron in a situation like this before, or was it new for you?
Oh, let me just say first that I appreciate the shout out to editors, because that is what I do for my day job. I do technical and marketing editing for a couple of different companies, actually. So, yeah, Ron and I had written together. Well, actually, this is kind of a sweet story. Here's my reveal for the Paizo Live audience. Ron and I have, Ron has actually had me work with him on editing some of his freelance writing for years now. And occasionally he'd say, "Oh, hey, could you draft this for me or draft that?" And I had just started picking up some smaller freelance writing projects when he was working on the adventure. When he was working on Tomorrow Must Burn for the Age of Ashes adventure path. And I ended up writing quite a bit of that, drafting it, and he'd edit it, and then I'd edit his stuff. And, we really collaborated on it. And then he fought to get me a cover credit. And I was really blown away by that. Paizo hadn't done any joint authorship stuff before. And at least one of our friends kind of gives me crap about it, because I, usually start out with writing some Pathfinder scenario or that organized play or something, like it kind of was like, and now you have a cover credit because what else have you done? So yeah, so we have been working on our kind of co-authoring process for several years, but this was the first time that we were invited to write
Co-author.
and where it was like officially what we were doing. So
from the start and intentional.
Yes, exactly. And I've also done writing for some of the Lost Omens. But the Lost Omens series. So
the Lost Omens line, the hardcover line.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Wonderful. So you've contributed to Pathfinder in multiple ways. Well, thank you for joining us, and let's now pull back a little bit and look specifically at Quest for the Frozen Flame Adventure Path. Patrick has given us a good introduction to the flavor of the realm and the land, and specifically the first volume is, let's see if I get the name of it right. It's Broken Moon.
Broken Tusk Moon.
Thank you. I just slipped my mind. I apologize.
That's all right.
Broken Tusk Moon for Volume 1. So specifically, that's what comes out next Wednesday, the 26th. And that is the volume that Ron and Stephanie co-wrote. So what story does this first volume tell? Ron, can you take the baton and just introduce to people the overarching plot setup for Broken Tusk Moon?
I absolutely can. It's a Broken Tusk Moon. It contains the word Broken Tusk in there. That's important. The realm of the Mammoth Lords has several groups called followings that so-called because they follow around the megafauna, but there are lots of different ones. The assumption in this one, the beginning of the adventure, details about how the following that all of the characters are part of are the Broken Tusk. There's a lot of history in how they became that following, but this story is about how the Broken Tusk, which is one of these followings that has that is frankly fallen on some hard times recently. There's been some schisms in the past and so on, but they are set upon by another following called the Burning Mammoths, which are the aggressors in this story. And so a lot of this first story, Broken Tusk Moon, is about realizing that your following is being hunted and running to try to get some aid in the form of a particular shelter that your following knows about, an ancient artifact that your following knows about, in order to try to leave the settled path that your following has been on and forge out into new territory. That's the overall story about how you are a part of and must work hard to help save your following.
Thank you. So that's the story that this first volume tells. I'll circle back to Patrick for just a moment and say, is there a description you can give us about the overarching story that the adventure path tells? I think we heard something about an artifact.
For sure, there is a titular frozen flame, as it were, and as the title suggests, you might be on a quest for it. And what I think this adventure path really enables us to tell, what I think is so cool about the realm of the Mammoth Lords and this idea of seasonal migratory hunter-gatherers, is that it takes place over a really long period of time, is what this kind of setting allows us to explore, right? So the very first chapter, it takes place around the vernal equinox, which is the middle of spring, when spring starts. And so because you live outdoors and you're following animals while they're migrating hither and yon, it's really important to keep track of lunar cycle, and you have all this knowledge at your disposal and all this experience that maybe it gets lost in a city where there's lamps obscuring the night sky, for instance, or that kind of thing. So what this adventure path lets us tell, like, a really large kind of epic story. I really wanted this to be feel like a saga, right? I mean, it's in the saga lands, so it has to feel like if you're traveling around, you are the scouts. You're the scouts for your following. So you're going ahead, making sure the route is clear and safe before your 100 or so, broken tusks follow you. And what that enables you to do as a scout is you're also the first contact with a lot of new people, right? So if you come across some strangers who are falling on hard times or something like that, maybe they need a larger group to join, and maybe you can bolster your following a bit more. Maybe the broken tusk can be not so, maybe it can be a whole tusk by the end of the adventure path, or that kind of thing. So I think kind of like an epic saga is kind of like the right way to look at this, or the kind of the expectation you can go into it with is you'll be looking at, what does this mean? What does this mean to your character over a longer period of time than, say, maybe a shorter term story?
Thank you.
Can I just build on that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Because this is one of the things that I think is so unique about what we've done here, and that I think is really a great place of entry, especially if you've been looking for an adventure path to play with younger players, or even kids, because we start out with something very simple. We start out with a moose hunt, and we start out with this very embedded and well described following, where you really can spend a lot of time building ideas about how your characters relate to each other, and about with the NPCs that form the others in the group. And it just really, I think, is a unique way to think about forming characters and having them like interact with our fantasy setting. And it can be very localized and specific, and just a great way to start, like Patrick said, this epic adventure. We put a lot of time into like coming up with ideas about how that culture works, and it seems to me like such a unique way, rather than like, and here are your 5 people that are gonna run through, like really,
Yeah.
yeah, more embedded. But
Mhm.
let me hurry and add that you don't have to be Kelid barbarians. This is not the other really fun thing that we did with this was make sure that it's very open to whatever kind of character you want to play.
And I think Stephanie, as the writer, you did a really excellent job, I thought, with fleshing out this self-sufficient small society, right? Because that's kind of essentially what it is. It's a very small collection of people that they travel this region by themselves. They don't, they can't just stop over at ye old Walmart and get the supplies they need. The person who makes the food for the group, the people who can make saddles, everyone is part of this group. And so it was really cool to see through that lens. In the first volume, there's a whole article about the Broken Tusk following. It was really cool to see what does song look like in this really unique culture. What is art and music, and what do they eat, and how do they cook? They don't cook like you might first presume, because you don't carry around big heavy pots with you when you're following a mammoth herd. So it was really cool to explore. Everything is different when you are on the move, and I think that was really hit home in this adventure.
Speaking of being on the move, I understand that there's some hexploration in this volume. Tessa, do you have a viewpoint in terms of an editor's viewpoint on the rules and the hexploration and the experience of trying to put this together for this volume that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, yes, if you are not a fan of the idea of exploring hexes, you should not. That is the only thing I would say, is you probably should avoid Frozen Flame. Anybody else, hop on in. It's going to be a great time. But if you're against hexploration, you're gonna have some trouble, because there's a lot of it. We really kind of it is the primary mode by which you and your party and the greater following outside of your party moves through the world. And I really love it. I think it really ties into a lot of the themes that Stephanie was just bringing up, and that Patrick brought up, and actually something that I wanted to piggyback off of from what Patrick said, bringing up that like this takes a long time because you're physically traveling a huge span of space. I hadn't even thought about that. I think that's a really cool experience for our players, because a campaign takes months, years sometimes, right? Like, that sense of like time and space and growing those experiences together, you're going to be able to see it physically, like on a map. You're going to chart your progress. And in terms of these sort of like behind the scenes stuff, that was very tricky, especially for me, coming to it, later in the process, having to imagine all of the various sort of paths and directions that a party could take through these exploration sections, because I don't think any two campaigns are going to look exactly the same, and a lot of that comes down to that. Patrick, as you were building it, do you try and do anything like specific, or like, I don't know, limit test the system at all as you built sort of 3 adventures kind of around this core concept?
I mean, that was the trick, right? Is to build it so that you can still tell a story. Because if you say, "Here's a hex map," go anywhere, then it's very difficult to get people from the first volume to the second. Because what if they go that way instead of that way? So as Ron alluded to, there are part of the trick to pull back the curtain a little bit is to give an impetus or a reason to move in a certain direction. And a war party that breaks up your nice ceremony during the vernal equinox might be such an impetus, because you're not going to go the way they're coming. So that was one element of it, right? But I think you're absolutely right, is that hexploration element of it, which for the uninitiated, it's basically a map, but instead of squares, you have hexagonal spaces. And the way we do that is each hex equals 12 miles or something like that. It depends on the adventure, but it takes a whole day to get across. So as you're scouting, that illustrates the amount of time in a very, like you said, Tessa, a very material way. You can see it's like, well, if we go 3 hexes that way, that's going to take 3 days. And it's like, what happens over 3 days? And all sorts of stuff, and so diseases, things that might not really matter in some games that take place over shorter time spans do start to matter. So if you're like, oh, I scratched that, that tiger over there scratched me something fierce the other day, no big deal. Boy, a week later, this sure itches a lot. That, happens a lot more in this adventure path than might in an adventure path where there's a healer just, down the street.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like it could in fact be an opportunity to use the encounter, the exploration, and maybe even the downtime rules over the course of all the volumes. So that's one of the things that I wanted to explore. I wanted to explore the story arc of this adventure path in this particular volume, but also the rules that people might experience and be able to dive into. So thank you very much. That I think that paints a good picture of what people can look forward to. Are there any other insider stories, anecdotes about putting this together, about the way you all interacted with each other that you could share with the audience about what it was like to put together this first volume?
I really enjoyed chatting with all these folks. I got to have one-on-one conversations with all three, about the different. Just like kind of waxing philosophical about these aspects, because it's a story about something that's so foreign to everyone who's going to be reading this book, right? Is because we live in societies where people live in houses and stuff like that. People don't follow animal herds, so we were we had to think about these things and address these things that were totally unknowable in a lot of ways, but. So it was really fun to, kind of chat books with like Ron and Stephanie, so like anthropology was, a big inspiration for a lot of this, like thinking about the human species before, before the dawn of agriculture, that kind of thing. So in talking with Tessa about, what is the moral structure of this kind of community look like? What is, how do we get from A to B, that kind of thing, in a fun way. It was cool to have these kinds of really, really heady conversations, right?
That's great.
I like, yeah.
As your marketing manager, I tend to use the word immersive a lot in talking about the Lost Omens setting, and I think you all were immersed in this setting and in the developing this culture that really, and these followings that really hadn't had a spotlight on them before. And I know people were really hungry for that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people think as they play these three volumes. Any other anecdotes before we go around? Go ahead, Ron.
I've got a substantially less intellectual one. One of the fun pieces exactly. One of the fun pieces about writing any of the stuff that we do is being able to see it sort of in print, live, right? In most cases, doing a lot of the writing, you can get kind of a sense of what you want some of the art to be, but other art that the developer will order and our great art team will arrange and our artists will do, you don't see until the final product. And so I was paging through the final product on this, and there is the most adorable image of a kid playing with baby porcupines. That is maybe my favorite picture to have stumbled across from anything I've ever written, ever. So get this and look for the kid playing with the baby porcupines picture, because it's delightful.
Yes. I do happen to have the volume in front of me.
Not many of those.
Oh, if you got it, you're on page 73.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to show it to people. I think I couldn't possibly do it justice here. So I think we're just going to leave that as a little cliffhanger to inspire people to take a look. I feel very proud of myself that we got some great art pulled from this volume, showing chapter headers, and it's really gorgeous stuff. And I'm sure it's going to people will see this art and and really have a feel for what the setting is and what this adventure holds. But there's more art in these volumes than we could possibly show. It could be a 2-hour slideshow of all the art, and it would just be just a slideshow at Paizo Live. So that's one of the things that I think we're really proud of, and that fans really love is the amazing art that goes into these volumes. So I'm happy to show a little bit of it and happy to tease a little more.
It was really cool. The art was really cool. You mentioned it, Aaron, to like explore each following, because as Tessa alluded to, there's many different followings. So like it was cool to work with the art team and figure out like what do broken tusks look like versus burning mammoths versus these aggressors versus other followings that you come across. Right, they're far from monolithic, and so it's really cool to see what kinds of animal parts they might incorporate into their outfits. If they have tattoos, what those might look like, that kind of stuff. It was really cool to explore how they use their environment to make themselves look like I'm a part of this following, like I'm over here doing me. So it was really cool to explore all the different types of followings that are in the adventure path.
That's great. Clear identities are formed, and then players are free to form their own based on the art that inspires them. All right. Well, I think we should wrap up this session in order to take a break and move on to the third session of the night. Patrick, we'll go back to you in order to talk about where you can be found, where you like to be found digitally, and your Paizo Live spoiler, please.
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on MySpace, LinkedIn, all the hot social media. Shoot me an email at. Shoot me an email if you. I would love to. I would love to hear from you if this is your jam. If you're excited for Quest for Frozen Flame, I would love for you to email me, patrick.renie@paizo.com. Just shoot me an email. I would love to get it. And my Paizo Live spoiler. It's going to be about the Quest for the Frozen Flame, because I'm obsessed with this adventure path. Is that it's not just mammoth lords, despite their name. Don't ride only mammoths. There are other kinds of creatures in the realm, and isn't that interesting? Just food for thought, and maybe think about what other animals I mentioned earlier or you've seen there. Yeah,
right. The megafauna riders. It doesn't roll off the tongue as much. The megafauna lords, but yes. Ron, thank you very much, Patrick. Ron, where can you be found, and what's your Paizo Live spoiler?
Alrighty, I am sometimes on Twitter at RPG Ron Lundeen. I've got a website where I give out a lot of advice for freelance authors, or Pathfinder, Starfinder, other freelance game writing generally. That's Run Amok Games, RUNAMOKGAMES.com, and or ron.lundeen@paizo.com. That's where you find me. As far as my Paizo spoiler goes, I also want to sort of call back to some of the great art that we saw on the cover of this adventure. You may see a awfully spooky looking ghost tiger, and that could seem like an awesome foe to face, or an ally. That's my Paizo Live spoiler.
Question mark? That's great. Well, I have to say that's sort of almost a calling card of Pathfinder and Starfinder adventures. Is you all are really great about whether letting players decide whether or not someone becomes an enemy or an ally. There's a lot of decision points there, and I really love to see how different groups make different choices. So thank you, Ron. And Stephanie, where can you be found on the internet if people want to follow you and are fans? And do you have a spoiler that you can share of some of your previous work?
Absolutely. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram sometimes. Stephanie Lundeen. T Lundeen on Instagram. And I have a personal blog called OurAmazingForeverFamily.com. And my latest contributions to Monsters of Myth are just out. Okay, that was possible way to say that. But in Monsters of Myth, I got to create a brand new monster who lives in Renie's circle in the Mwangi Expanse.
Amazing.
Oh.
Here it is.
Oh, there it is.
Wait, Stephanie, you wrote that?
Yeah, Temteki. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize. That's some of my favorite editing I've ever done. That's so cool. I love Kentucky. It's so wonderful. Yeah, that's so
Thank
cool.
you.
Sorry.
Yep, Pathfinder Lost Omens Monsters of Myth released last month and is available now. Thank you, Stephanie. And Tessa, do you have a spoiler you want to share, or let's see. Yes, this would be your final opportunity. We've got you in 2 of 3 segments. Where can you be found, and do you have a spoiler?
Absolutely, of course I do. Actually, before I give my handle and spoiler, I did want to say one last thing. Going off of what Ron said and what Patrick has said, if, especially in the realm of the Mammoth Lords, with your following, if your first instinct is to approach everything with a blade or a fist, you are going to have a very, very rough time. You have to respect the natural world, and that is important. And I just wanted to throw that out there. You can find me far too often on twitter.com at KT_Tessa. I'll also just play way too many video games, but my all the time. So if you want to play something, hit me up. And my Paizo Live spoiler has to do with a very different segment of the world, a very different sort of flavor. We have already talked about the Bloodlords adventure path for this year, and Book of the Dead is coming up soon. Y'all have no idea how much Geb you're going to get this year. That's my spoiler. You're going to get more Geb than you know what to do with. If you don't like him, it is absolutely #year of Geb. And yeah, if you don't like Geb, like the Ghost King, don't worry, I'm with you. I think he sucks, but I do love him as a character. He's wonderful, and he's a sniveling little snot, and I'm so excited for all of you to learn everything terrible about him. It's wonderful. That's it. Bye.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I did write down final thoughts, as I think maybe that's going to be part of the sign off. It's really great to hear your final thoughts before the Paizo Live spoiler. So thank you very much. And thank you, all 4 of you, for being a part of this panel. I'll remind our audience and our listeners that you can subscribe to the Pathfinder Adventure Path line, and all of those volumes will be delivered directly to you from our Paizo warehouse. You can purchase them. The first volume of Quest for the Frozen Flame will be available this Wednesday, the 26th, in print and at your favorite local gaming store right around that time. We try to time it so that our street date and your favorite local gaming store's street date are in alignment, although it's more art than science. And they're also available as PDF downloads on Paizo.com starting on Wednesday. And I don't have a list of exactly which virtual tabletop companies are going to have this on day one top of mind, but I will definitely post that on the product page at Paizo.com so that you can play on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or one of our many licensed partners who produce virtual tabletops for you, because that's such an important thing during these pandemic times. Yeah, that's the end of this Pathfinder segment. We're going to take another break and queue up our panel for the final segment of the night and dive into Starfinder Galactic Magic hardcover. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome to New Harmony, this recently discovered planet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I created the schedule. So Patrick will say goodnight to you. Stephanie, thank you very much.
Welcome to New Harmony, This recently discovered planet in the vast, currently devoid of intelligent life, has been designated as a settlement site. And with the generous backing from the likes of the Aspith Consortium, the Starfinder Society, the Xeno Wardens, and the Viscarium, that's where you come in. As administrators of your very own land charter, it'll be your responsibility to explore the lush, fertile landscape, catalog the various forms of flora and fauna, construct projects that ensure the health, safety, and prosperity of your citizens, negotiate with leaders of other charters for the benefit of all, uncover ancient ruins, and solve a mystery millennia in the making. At the end, the world of New Harmony is yours, should you survive. Horizons of the Vast is a Kingmaker and space-style adventure path for 1st to 12th level characters.
Going somewhere?
I was just looking for you.
How lucky for you, then. It's quite a big price on your head.
Is the money really worth all this?
It's not about the credits. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
I bet you have.
You're not getting the drop on the villains with sounds like that. Your game needs Sirenscape. The Sirenscape online player has a huge library of epic sounds for any situation. Whether your players are cruising across the galaxy or blasting bounty hunters, Sirenscape brings the game to life. Epic games need epic sound. Go to Sirenscape.com to get started today.
So, you used to work for Edge Corp, huh? Taking it to the edge and all that. You were just a long hauler, shipping cargo from one planet to another for low pay, worse benefits, and the promise of a bonus that never showed up. Now, you're your own boss, looking for cargo you can buy for cheap and sell for bank. Jobs are everywhere. Absalom Station, sure, but the Viscarium too. Near space, even the vast. Get used to the drift, cause you're gonna be flying long hauls. And some of the things that live in that place, they don't like visitors. I heard Edge Corp is still after you. Something about a stolen ship? And the Golden League is after you too? You got a long list of enemies, hotshot. You better start making some friends. Cause if there's one thing I've learned in a lifetime of carrying freight, it's that every bill comes due. If you really want to be free to go where you want, do as you please, you're gonna have to settle up with these people. And revenge ain't cheap. Don't say I didn't warn ya.
You've destroyed a dangerous superweapon. Stopped the threat of an invasion from another plane. Fought against a host of nigh unstoppable foes. And uncovered evidence of a vast conspiracy. But now, your biggest challenge lies ahead of you. In Starfinder's first adventures for higher-level characters, the remnants of an ancient warmongering civilization threaten the Pact Worlds, and only you can stop them. Will you rise to the challenge? Or will the devastation arc destroy everything you hold dear?
Hello, and welcome back to our final segment of Paizo Live. Today is Friday, the 21st of January, and we have been talking about all the products that are coming out next Wednesday on the 26th of January. Our first segment was all about organized play and digital product releases, both Pathfinder Society, Starfinder Society, and new Starfinder bounties. And then we launched into the new Pathfinder Adventure Path, Quest for the Frozen Flame, and talked all about that new trilogy of volumes. And now we're going to switch to our Starfinder line and talk about Starfinder Galactic Magic, which is the newest hardcover to come out of our Starfinder role-playing game, science fantasy at its best. Today, to talk to us about the hardcover, are three of our most verbose Paizo employees, and I somehow managed to cue them all up in the last segment of the show, so bully to me. And so let me introduce you to John Compton, first and foremost. John, welcome.
Hello, good to be here.
Hello, and what do you do? What is your title at Paizo, John?
I am Starfinder Senior Developer, so I work on hardcover books to make cool stuff like Galactic Magic.
Excellent, this is your wheelhouse. And did you have a particular title that is different than your normal title for this book?
Not especially. I mean, you'll also see me at the very front as one of the development leads. So basically, whenever we do one of these books, typically it is between Joe Pacini and I to trade off who's being the lead on a particular book. This is one, like with Tech Revolution, where I was taking the lead on creating the outline, assigning writers, and just generally handling the overview and quality control of the book.
Excellent. That gives a frame of reference. Thank you very much. Our next guest is Thurston. Thurston Hillman is back.
You come back to me, Aaron. It all comes full circle. Hello, I'm Thurston Hillman. I am the digital developer for Paizo. You heard me talk a lot during our digital development. I really appreciate that Aaron is Vanna Whiting these books right now, just because he clearly knows we're going to talk too much for him to do this on his own. This is good tactic he's got going on here. But see, I've got a way around it. See, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to redeem a villain point. That'll add 10 minutes onto the show, right? That's how that works. If I redeem a villain point in chat, I can just add more time onto the show, right? Hey, that's how we play here. But no, my role in Galactic Magic, a fancy book that I don't have because I'm in Canada, so they have to mail it to me, and it has to go through the ice desert and so forth. I was the person responsible for the precog class, which I'm sure we will talk about after we go through all the intros. That's not the precog class, that's Urgathoa. But
no, chat was very interested in that image, so that's why I showed it. But thank you. Yes. Thank you. It will be wonderful to have your perspective on this class as we talk about Starfinder Galactic Magic. Our third guest.
Absolutely. I also added another 10 minutes with another villain point, so we're good.
Yeah. No, I was telling the our guests that I need a show that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. We need a Tesseract for Paizo Live in order to get in all the information we want. But it's all because we're so enthusiastic about what we do. So I'm sure you understand. All right. Our third guest is Ron Lundeen. Ron Lundeen is back from our previous segment. Hello, Ron.
Hello. I understand that Thirsty just gave me 20 minutes to talk straight. Alrighty, here we go. To introduce myself, I'm development manager at Paizo on the Pathfinder side. But that is, I spend my days in the fantasy and my nights in the stars because I am a freelancer for an awful lot of Starfinder books, including this one, including Galactic Magic. I'm very excited to have participated in this one.
Indeed, and since I knew I had you on the show earlier, I couldn't resist the opportunity to have you back and talk about your participation in this book as a freelancer. So thank you for being here. And we'll talk about exactly what that was, but let's gather all of you together. And don't worry, I've held up pictures of the book here on screen, but I do have lots of actual art to show you that's a little higher resolution and a higher quality as we chat, and we can just sort of show those. Yeah, show those to everyone as we chat. So, what is there a story that this book tells? These are my standard questions throughout the show that apply maybe more to adventures than hardcovers. But John, does this galactic magic tell a story or help tell a story in the Starfinder setting? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to Starfinder, it's not just a sci-fi game, it is a science fantasy game. And we've had a whole bunch of products that have really highlighted the idea of like, what's the technological side? We have mechanics, we have technomancers, and we even had Tech Revolution as a hardcover book coming out right before this. And so Galactic Magic is in many ways a partner or a opposite side of the coin to Tech Revolution, showing what the fantasy side of that science fantasy coin is. So you're going to be finding a whole bunch of spells, you're going to be finding new magical items and options, you're going to be learning a lot about what it means to have, cast, and perform magic in this setting. And also, even one of my favorite bits is like, hey, if we are in a universe that has magic as a force, like gravity, when you get on a cosmic scale, what is magic do? And so we even explore what it means to have solar systems and galaxies that have giant cosmic magic phenomena, and all of those impacts in fun ways. So right now we're cycling through some of the chapter opener art. So you're getting to see some of our iconic characters fighting radiation drakes, for example, right now, as well as you'll be seeing some things like them fighting off various demons. But yeah, so it's very much a look at the fantasy, supernatural, and magical side of our game to tell you what that's all about. And that needs to include a new class. That needs to include, new character options for everybody and every class.
Wonderful. Thank you. That is a great way to explain the book as a whole to people who are new to Starfinder or haven't yet heard about it. So you mentioned a new class. Thirsty, maybe you can step in and say something about the precog and what that adds to the game. What's the concept?
I like that you say something like I'm only going to say one thing about the precog. I've got a whole encyclopedia about this class. And don't worry, chat's already thrown their own villain points in to keep this going. So the precog was actually an interesting class. So let's pull back the curtain for our listeners here. When we decide to do new classes in Starfinder, typically they'll be part of like a book that we want to do, and we will be discussing all sorts of ways that we can, like, what class do we want in this book, or what book would suit this class. And so we have these internal team meetings and discussions, sorts of things. In this case, John was there for some of these meetings, and there were a variety of class ideas bandied about. Trust me, we are not low on class ideas. Precog, oddly enough, was not the class that I was pitching, but it sure was the class that ended up getting selected. Now, when it came time to decide who would write that class, I, having come from the background of organized play, was incredibly fearful of any type of class that could see the future, because I knew the impact that could have on a lot of different games. And so I boldly leapt on that grenade to be like, this is a class that I want to handle, because I am very fearful that this will become rerolls the class. And like, rerolls are fun in games, but they run into a lot of issues. So we kind of came up with this class, the precog, that could like interact with the future, the past. It was a very temporal type of class. And so we started going through that setup, I suppose, and then what this class would look like. And as I was going through it, I ended up having some really good talks with Jason Keeley, our development manager on the Starfinder side, and we bandied about some ideas as well. And so we came up with this class, the precog, that rather than dealing with rerolls, which is a very common like role-playing game trope, every role-playing game, war game out there lets you reroll, it adds like a certain level of power, and it's really hard to determine what that level of power is. And there's like, here's the mechanical deep lore, but like those can spike games in some odd ways. And so when Keeley and I were talking, we came up with this idea of what instead of rerolling, this class was based on pre-rolling. And so the precog is a class that gains a number of paradox points. points that are essentially you get a number of paradox points each day, and you roll a d20 for each of those paradox points. So it creates this situation where at the beginning of your character's day, like when you would prepare spells or when you would rest up, you roll a bunch of dice and you get the results in advance. And then you can slot those into certain things depending on your level and your skill. So you might be like, oh, I rolled a 20. Sweet. Guaranteed crit is my character. That's pretty cool. I can save that and use that. And then we decided to just go the whole mile, and we're like, you know what? We've got a play test. Let's make it a dex-based spellcaster. That changed. That was a bit too much. And then we decided, like, oh yeah, we'll also like have all these abilities and test them out. And so the precog kind of became this class that allowed us to really play with that idea of pre-rolling from a mechanical perspective. Now, from a narrative perspective, let us play with so many tropes. It allows us to basically go through almost any time travel trope you want as a player character. Do you want to play John Connor? You can play John Connor. You can be the I'm like time-touched person, but also I get a massive base attack bonus that's kind of equivalent to a soldier and is really good. Do you want to play like straight out of Quantum Leap? There's an ability for this class that allows you to have an invisible buddy only you can see who can tell you things. That's what the precog's about. It's about giving you a whole bunch of time-related elements so that if you're this big time travel fan, you can have that in your game. And now there, I've redeemed my first villain point. Remember, I had 2, Aaron.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have an overarching understanding about what this hardcover is. We have an understanding of the new class, which is, of course, a highlight of the book. Ron, what was it that you got to contribute as a freelancer? I've been a bad host, and I don't think I drilled down into what that was.
No, I'm very excited about it. Getting the intro of the precog is important to talk about some of the stuff that I did here. No book called Galactic Magic is going to be complete without a whole bunch of new spells. And so I contributed some of the spells. I also contributed the write-up. We were looking at Urgathoa earlier. Urgathoa is pretty cool, but not Xiphus cool, the god of misfortune and accidents and arranging misfortune and accidents, which is pretty cool in a fantasy setting, but in a sci-fi setting is way more awesome. Anyway, the spells that I put together on this was an unusual assignment, actually, and perhaps one of the most difficult ones I've tackled, because it wasn't what are the biggest types of flashy magic you can throw around and the highest level spells. No, it's, Ron, write a bunch of 0 level spells. Make sure they are appropriate and balanced and can work for casters who are able to sort of cast them at will, as the case with cantrip. So go. One of these that I did, every one of our spellcasting classes has kind of their signature cantrip that they get to use. And the one I got to develop the one for the precog. What's a 0 level spell every precog gets to cast? That's the a quick look into a terrible future and inflicting that on somebody else. But other things as well that are sort of 0. Things that let you stick stuff to other stuff, or things that let you, quickly change your appearance. Things that I think not just aren't too tough if you can do them a lot of times, but are actually really fun to be able to do a lot of times. So that was a lot of fun for me to contribute.
Great, lots of new spells. It occurs to me as you're talking, our Pathfinder product line is shaped differently. The rule books they've come out with 6 rule books: the Game Mastery Guide and the Advanced Player's Guide, and then the 3 bestiaries, and that's sort of a set of cool rule books. And now they've started to kind of spin off into the Book of the Dead and Secrets of Magic, which are sort of, in theory, optional add-ons to the core of the game. But as you talk about Starfinder, Galactic Magic, there's spells here, there's character options, there's really a lot of things that are going to fit into the core of the game that people who are playing Starfinder now might look at it and go, oh, this is the thing I always wanted but I never knew, or a chance to really flesh out those spellcasters in a way that maybe they didn't quite understand what the possibilities were, with only a core rulebook in their hands. And then there also seem to be some optional things, some variants. John, what can you tell us about that division within this book? How did you think about, well, this is going to be core and usable by everyone, and then maybe there's some new subsystems or options that are, how do you differentiate that in your mind?
One of the core ideas in creating this book is that it needed to be something accessible to as wide a range of players as possible. And I'd even go so far as to say something that everybody can use. Because when we look at something like Tech Revolution, it's, oh, any character can buy a computer. But when it comes to spellcasting, then people are like, well, hang on, that only covers like soon to be 4 of our classes. So maybe it's not for my operative, maybe it's not for my soldier. But in providing new class options for all of our classes, the goal was to provide that science fantasy and even magical spin on our classes. So it's like, okay, what does a soldier that starts to fight, mix magic and combat look like? What does a spell thief operative look like who can steal other people's enchantments? Basically, different alternate class features, exploits, and other tricks that allow you to take that magical spin on things. But we also wanted to make sure that we were approaching some variations on magic that we had not done before. Like, a core rulebook is only so big, or it can only be so big before like it falls apart. And so, in addition to all the spells, for which I'll have an anecdote later, we also wanted to make sure that we had ritual spellcasting. Ritual spellcasting is basically these spell types of effects that take a long time to cast, that are these monumental or kind of weird effects, and that non-spellcasters can use. So similar to some of the ritual spellcasting that you might have seen in Pathfinder 1st Edition or in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Starfinder now has its own variant of ritual spellcasting, which does include like a lead ritualist and as many assistants as you want, who have their own different types of actions that you can do on a ritual round by ritual round basis. And the length of a ritual round depends on the ritual you're doing. So it might be like an hour. But each one kind of has a ritual recipe, and it turns it into this experience that everyone can be a part of. So that's super cool and allows you to do bigger things like communing with deities or you know, reincarnating your friends or stuff like that. But on top of that, we had ways of going back and tweaking how spellcasters operate on a fundamental level by providing several optional variants. So, folks, especially like Ron, when he had to be creating all these new 0-level spells, it's like 0-level spells only do so much damage. It's like 1d6 damage out of the gate is kind of fun at first level. Then by the time you're 7th level, everybody else is doing way more than that. So what is the point of my cantrips? Well, we provided a 0-level spell or damaging 0-level spell scaling system. So if you want to incorporate it, then you'll find that your 0-level spells will automatically scale up in a way that is roughly comparable with like wielding a small arm weapon. So that way you don't have to give your mystic a pistol, but you can more reliably rely on your magic on a round-by-round basis. So you can feel like a spellcaster every round if you're so inclined, not just somebody who occasionally throws around a spell slot and then goes pew-pew the rest of the time. So we have that, but we also have prepared spellcasting as a variant. So all of our current spellcasters are what are oftentimes referred to as spontaneous spellcasters, where they have a list of spells known and they have a pile of spell slots and you can kind of mix and match throughout the day. Yeah. Whereas a prepared spellcaster is like a wizard from Pathfinder, where you slot in exactly which spell into which slot you're going to have, and you only have that many. But it gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of the breadth of things that you could prepare. And so we have a universal variant that you can put onto any of our spellcasting classes to turn them into that prepared spellcaster variant, if that's the style that you like. So it's a lot of like looking at the magic systems we have and saying, okay, how can we expand the options to provide you the fullest and most precisely catered to the experience you want that we can.
Yeah, you know, Pathfinder, I was around for the launch of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and we were, you know, very much crowing about deep character customization. But as I've been writing some marketing materials for Starfinder of late, you know, there's a lot of deep character customization in Starfinder as well. And I think it's true of the Paizo verse and the products that we make. That's our niche. But I think Tech Revolution and now Starfinder Galactic Magic really double down on that concept. If you have a science fantasy or sci-fi character concept that you want to manifest in play, the rules support that. And that's what that's what I see these new variant rules do, is they add those sorts of support that you always kind of wanted anyway, and now you've got the option to use them. I've got some favorites as well, but I'm going to hold my tongue until I let all of you speak, and then I'll throw it in if you haven't already mentioned it.
How much more speaking do you want from us?
That's right. Oh, we can do it. Good. You heard that invitation.
More villain points. More villain points.
You've got 15 minutes. So you've got 10. And so let's the other separation in Pathfinder is that there's a rulebook line and there's a setting line, Lost Omens, and in Starfinder we've got rulebooks and the Pact Worlds blended together. What can you tell us about the lore that's a part of Starfinder Galactic Magic? How is that presented? And I'm not sure maybe each one of you has something to say about that. But I'll start with John, and then you can pass the baton to the others.
Yeah. So when we're looking at some of these setting opportunities, like we have in Galactic Magic and like we had in Tech Revolution, it's sort of explaining what are the baseline truths of the settings that somebody can go in and say, I don't know, is this a thing? How are spellcasters viewed by the galaxy at large? I'm a spellcaster. Is that a college major? Are there careers for that? What is magic? Okay, so these are the sorts of questions that when we were looking at Galactic Magic, we wanted to make sure that we had answers for. So in the back of Galactic Magic, in the final chapter, you're going to find that there are these broad setting examinations, so that when you are creating a spellcasting character, you can be saying, okay, what are the fundamentals that I might know, with the understanding that the galaxy is a big, big place. And so I might come from a part of the galaxy that it handles things differently, but at least give me some broad strokes. But on top of that, I want to make sure that there are ways that I can get involved. So Ron had mentioned Xiphus stuff. That's because we have a whole bunch of deities in this book. We have a whole bunch of magical organizations in this book. We have a whole bunch of philosophies and faiths. So that way you can have your character or characters be a part of something bigger. And you can have those anchors, beyond the precog anchors, of course, that tie you into the setting and make you a part of it. So just to rattle off a couple of those, we have things like new organizations, religious organizations like the Parallel Truths, where we said, all right, we got witch warpers, we have alternate realities, we should have organizations about this thing. And the Parallel Truths basically believe that it is possible to get in touch with the alternate reality that is precisely connected to you as an individual, where if you can just get into it, you will be a god. Or if you can draw it into our world, then you will become like a semi-divine being. And so it's like half cult, half, I don't know, maybe it is true, but it's a place where witch warpers might feel excited. Or you have things, in addition to the Arcana Miriam and the Institute for Extraordinary Minds that we had in Zamir's backstory for the witch warper, we have other schools as well, like the Palace Obscura, which is one of the less nice schools, which is like a school for enchanters and tyrants, where basically your testing is to go out into the city and manipulate people and dominate and take over others or possibly other students. And so it's sort of like where do villains get their education? Like, oh, okay, I apparently have I apparently have a major in possession, or even an Eldritch Games League. So it's like, what is the ESPN of magical sports? Fantastic, we have it. But it's these sort of moments where you can say, oh, that is an organization that I want to be a part of, or that I want to be against, or that I want to aspire to be, or punch in the face, or whatever. It's all sorts of great leads like that.
Excellent, thank you. I think I'm going to steer us to Thirsty now for you can do final thoughts about lore that you got to contribute. Did the precog give you some lore aspects to dive into, or was that mostly rules? And then we're gonna segue to a sign off and a spoiler.
Okay. I'm going to start this by saying I'm going to trade in my second villain point that I redeemed on the channel to get that extra time that I desperately need here. As Aaron beautifully continues to Vanna White all these amazing products for us. First of all, I'm also going to say that someone by the name of Joe Adultman, who has no relation to Joe Piscini, maybe corrected me in chat that Joe was actually responsible for the pre-roll mechanic. I just worked with Jason Keeley on how that would translate into a point and a gaining and a using mechanic. So both of them were instrumental. And Joe is a fantastic person who comes up with great ideas and is our lead designer here on Starfinder. And great. Okay, so then I'm going to jump over really quick because I'm going to get to your question, Aaron. Don't worry. I'm going to say that variant spellcasting thing, that 0-level spells, you should all be using it. Just like if you have Witch Warpers in your games, you should just give them access to Magic Missile. That's a house rule. You should just do it, though. It's cool. Then I'm going to finally get over to lore and talk about the precog and the lore. Specifically, though, I'm going to talk about how the lore ended up with the precog character, in that this was really, I think, for Paizo, the first time we had a precog's backstory done out of house. And so we had a lot of discussions about what the precog iconic should be. And so eventually that led to discussions on what ancestral species should they have for Starfinder. And eventually that led us to make some decisions that elf was the way to go. We really wanted to go that way. And then we decided to create this precog who was mobility impaired, Ciravel the elf, who you may have seen on our blogs, who from some of our art you'll see is going around in a big crystalline mobility device. And that was all written by Jennifer Kretschmer, who is someone who is a mobility advocate in the game industry. Definitely suggest you go follow her on Twitter. You can find her at DreamWisp. She wrote and did a tremendous job on the background, and so that was something we were all passionate about on the team, about exploring. And when it came up, normally the person who writes the class is like, oh, you get first dibs, and I did not feel comfortable. I wanted it to be someone who could speak with that voice, and Jennifer did an amazing job on that. So that was sort of a excellent point of us looking at what we needed almost mechanically in terms of like, what ancestries have we used? What sort of backgrounds have we used? And really creating Ciravel, which came out well in this book, and you'll see in a lot of the artwork in Galactic Magic and probably some other things beyond. Also, as far as narrative is concerned, I would strongly suggest taking a look at the gods, but not the main gods. You're going to see each of the primary deities in Starfinder gets a full art piece and a full page write-up, but then you're going to see some half-page spreads that are dedicated to some of the lesser-known gods. So if you're a fan of someone like Caden Kaleen, you might have some information. Hey, wondering what Asmodeus is up to? Sweet, in here. There are some new ones. There's also maybe this little-known deity by the name of Kadrakal, who some organized play players might recognize, who maybe has some big things in a certain Scoured Stars situation. Wow, they get a write-up in here, and we get to see that evolution of things from organized play making their way into print products, much like how we've had the reverse of, hey, this thing that's in print has shown up in organized play. So it's really cool to have that connection. Yeah, yes, I'm done rambling. You can go. You can go.
So many lore opportunities. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
I want to hear more from Thurston.
Let me tell you about the broken cycle and how all you Redditors out there who complain about it, it's going to be a great update for the Solarian, and you should all like it. I like how Aaron's response is to go quiet and be like, look at the products, everybody, look at the products. All right, I'm handing it back to Aaron. I swear, I've done my job.
So you've already said where you can be. Let's do a lightning round. If that's okay, Ron, we'll go to you. We'll do a Paizo Live spoiler and where you can be found on the interwebs with Ron, and then we'll circle back and end with John, and then lightning round for 5 minutes. Go, Ron.
Okay. Twitter, RPG Ron Lundeen, and my blog, runamuckgames.com. My small third-party thing, but I've got a lot of great advice there as well. Where can I be found? I'm going to take a page from Thirsty, not in talking a lot. I'm also going to take that page. But if you were here for the organized play component of Paizo Live today, Thirsty mentioned a podcast that he's kicking up. I do the same. I participate with the author of the bounty, Starfinder bounty, that you showed off in the first thing, John Godek, and my wife, Stephanie Lundeen, who you saw on the second component of this. The three of us are just some of the players in the Intrepid Heroes podcast, and we have a great time playing Starfinder there.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have I got a little disoriented. Was that your spoiler, or was that just where to find you?
Oh, you want me to start giving spoilers? Alrighty, here we go. One of the things that I really loved is the opportunity to write a lot of the Starfinder adventure paths, and I've been working back and forth with Jake Tondro on Masters of Time and Space, that adventure path that I wrote for him, and some of the things that are going on there, which is going to be a great twist on the dungeon crawl theme in outer space. I love it. You'll check that out when it gets around.
Thank you very much. Thirsty, did you have a spoiler you wanted to share?
Of course I do. When do I not have things I want to share? All right, here. Hi, my name's Thurston, On Call GM. You can find me on all the things at On Call GM, twitch.tv/OnCallGM. My cat's coming back in the room. You might hear her meowing. And yeah, you can check me out tomorrow, twitch.tv/ZoneTheBear. I'm going to chill that again because we're going to start a Pathfinder 2 campaign. It's going to be awesome. You should come there, 3 p.m. CST. And then I'm going to tell you a cool spoiler. Also, there's the cat. You can kind of see her over this shoulder. Look at her. She's adorable. The spoiler I am going to give you is, as we talked about Cadrical and the Scoured Stars, I would just give a little hint that I don't think we've seen the last of the Scoured Stars, and there might be some more stuff in the distant future on that front.
All right. Echoes of the Scoured Stars. Excellent. You can catch the Scoured Stars live play on Paizo's YouTube channel to get all caught up with the major plot. And John, do you have where can you be found? And do you have a Paizo Live spoiler you want to share?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Archeotag, ARCHAEOTAGH. You can also find me on the Starfinder RPG Discord server, where I hang out frequently. And as far as Paizo spoilers go, so we have a thing called the Drift Crisis that's coming up after Galactic Magic, and this is an opportunity for us to present all sorts of NPCs who are going to be featuring in there and give them big, juicy write-ups. And you're going to find a lot of new faces there, people you've never met before. But you're also going to find at least 2 characters who have been mentioned before. One of them is a famous early drift explorer that we thought we had seen the last of. And the other is a media celebrity who is just the sort of vulture who would exploit a catastrophe in order to boost ratings. So we're really excited to give these cool NPC write-ups that however you approach Drift Crisis adventures, then you'll have this big pile of great content and tools in order to make the game and story as awesome as possible.
Looking forward to Drift Crisis. That's going to be amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, all 3 of you, for this lightning round sign off of Starfinder. Here is the Starfinder Galactic Magic hardcover. It becomes available on Wednesday, the 26th, next week. It's available in print at Paizo.com and your favorite local game store. It's also available as a PDF download on that day. And I'm sure a lot of our virtual tabletop partners will have it accessible soon as well. Thank you all, gentlemen. I'll just sign off by sharing with our audience some of the other products that we're releasing this month that we haven't had a chance to talk about. Of course, here is a physical copy of Broken Moon. Broken Tusk Moon. We talked about that earlier in the show. I think I have some slides to show of the other accessories that are being released this month. Here's a physical copy of the Starfinder spell cards. Now, they don't include the newest spells that you'll find in Galactic Magic, but they do include the spells from the core rulebook and the character operations manual. So I believe this is a brand new accessory for Starfinder. They are available as digital downloads from Paizo.com as well as printed cards. So if you're a VTT player and you want to be able to use cards in your VTT game by sharing them with your players, that can be really fun. I know that's really popular. Let's see, what's the next image that we have? I think I've forgotten what that is. That is the Pathfinder Secrets of Magic spell cards. Excellent. So this is a huge deck. It's, probably twice as big as the Starfinder box, and it's going to include all the spells from Secrets of Magic. And that's, of course, different traditions, primal, arcane, occult, and primal, arcane, occult, and divine, as well as focus spells. So, this is a real premium way to enhance your Pathfinder experience. And as I said, they're available digitally as well for a slightly lower price point, and a way to have these cards digitally for your virtual tabletop play. Very exciting. The last two products that we're coming out with are the enormous forest, which there we go. Got a little. It's physically wider than that. There we go. Somehow my image got a little squished, but it is a huge flip mat, enormous in fact, of a basic forest. I think the really important thing about this product is just how big it is. It's 30 inches by 46 inches. With as many squares as you want to get lost in a forest. So that's really exciting. And lastly, I think we have the City of Lost Omens poster map folio. There we go. And this is part of the Lost Omens subscription. They're not flip mats. They're paper. It's a paper poster in 4 different pieces. So it's huge to go on your wall or lay out on a table. And what's also really exciting about this is that it includes an Absalom map folio and counter key, so that you can use this to really zoom in on all those amazing locations within the City of Lost Omens that are mentioned in the hardcover book. You can actually use these maps at your table to really have a sense of a living, vibrant city. And I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to know that those exist and are coming out this Wednesday, the 26th. So those are the big January releases for January 2022 in both Pathfinder and Starfinder. We're very excited to get them to you. So for now, I'm going to remind you that you can subscribe to a multitude of different Pathfinder and Starfinder product lines on Paizo.com. You can go to your favorite local gaming store and tell them what you're interested in. I'm sure they're happy to pre-order or special order anything that you've seen here that they haven't already ordered and made available. So we love our favorite local game stores. Don't be afraid to knock on their door and ask for what you want. Until the next Paizo Live, which will be in late February, please follow us on all our social media channels, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and heck, we're even on LinkedIn. So follow us for all the updates and go to our Paizo.com for the latest blogs, so you always stay up to date on the exciting new additions in Pathfinder and Starfinder. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's been a whirlwind. Looks like we're about 2 minutes over. That's not so bad considering. Until next month, adventures ahead. Thanks for joining us.